podcast. I'm your host, Mari Reesberg. Over the past several years, I've combined my degrees in acting and somatic psychology to share my sustaining creativity techniques with performers. And now, I've decided to share it with a bigger audience that includes you. I believe we are all creative, and this podcast is all about that. I'll be interviewing people from all backgrounds, ages, and creativity experiences to share just how creative we all are. Today, I'll be chatting with Sara Deacon, the adulting coach. Please enjoy Sara Deacon. Welcome to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. Today I am here with Sara Deacon, the adulting coach. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Mari. It's great to be here.
I'm super excited to chat with you about creativity today and hear more about the adulting coach and what you actually do with that. But before we dive into all the creativity wanderings, why don't you take a couple of minutes and let our listeners know a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, I'm Sara Deacon. As you said, Mari, I am the adulting coach. I have my own coaching business in which I get to coach teens and young adults and help them figure out for themselves who they want to be when they grow up, so they can have the courage to suck at something new, confidently decide how they want to live their own lives, and adult successfully. So that is my job, my passion, my profession, and outside of that, I do several other things. I have 3 sons. I am a martial artist and an artist, and probably more things than I really remember to say in an intro right now. So that's me in a nutshell.
I love it. And I mean, already I have so many questions about all the things you do. I'm so curious. How did you get into the adulting coaching experience?
Yeah, it was a sort of an evolution in my having my own business. I started my own business in 2017, and I was actually doing postpartum care. I was helping families transition to life with a newborn. In that role, I found myself acting as a guide, a coach. I started realizing that coaching was what I was doing as I was listening to people process through their emotion, their identity overhauls and upheavals, and their relationship changing, their navigating, changes with mother-in-law, mothers-in-law, and all the things that come with having a new baby. And in the process, I had also been receiving a lot of coaching and communication training and leadership training outside of my professional role. And during the pandemic, I decided to shift completely and embrace the role of a coach. I started marketing myself as that, and people kept asking me, like, do you work with teenagers? Because they need you. They need this, and they need support. They need people that aren't mom and dad to help them figure their stuff out. And honestly, I had started adding coaching to my business in 2019. But in 2020, it was like, oh, well, this is something I can go and do without having to be in the same physical location as somebody.
Right.
To help them process and figure out what's next. So I've been in the teen and young adult space for about a year, and people really seem to enjoy the fact that I work with teenagers on purpose, because not a lot of us want to enter into that space because it is very tumultuous time, full of drama and, again, emotional and identity upheavals. So that is sort of where I've landed, and I honestly love it. I think teens are great. Gen Z is amazing and really powerful and more powerful than they even know. And it's just really cool to be able to come alongside them and help them tap into their brilliance.
I love it. And it sounds like also so many opportunities for creativity to come alive with identity and discovery and curiosity, and how that shows up for you. I can't wait to hear more. But I'm so curious, what does it mean to you to be creative?
Oh, that is a loaded question, Mari. Um, I think being creative is just something that we are born to be.
Mhm.
And my whole life, I've had expression in me that needed to come out. I've been an artist for as long as I can remember, since I could hold a crayon. And it's, my parents really cultivated that. With my mom was actually had her own custom framing business and would frame the artwork that we would put out. And like, so our walls were just full of, our best work. And there was just always something in me that I needed to explore. So I think creativity comes into this like exploration of expression,
Mm.
where there's a lot of play involved, and there's a lot of like, I wonder what will happen if I do this, and really just kind of figuring it out. And if the end result is something amazing and inspiring for anyone else, that's like a bonus. It's not really the point.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, yeah.
So that the process, the actual creating whatever it is has more of that connection to creativity for you, is what
Yeah.
I'm hearing.
Creativity for me is in the gaps. Like I see something that I want and I don't see anything else that fits my vision of what it needs to be, so I have to make it.
Oh,
And that's sort of been the story of my life. It's like, oh, I want a bag that's kind of like this. Well, I better learn to sew so I can make it. Like,
yeah.
so that's been my creative process. I know for other people it's very different. But that's just something that came to me just now, is like, oh yeah, creativity is filling in the gaps. Like what do I need? And if I can't find it, or if it's not quite the way I want it to be, I either have to change it or make it.
Mm-hmm. Has
And I
that,
think it even relates to kind of filling in that gap with the adulting thing too, with,
yeah.
okay, people are telling me that this is a need. And as I started to explore that, I'm like, oh yeah, that really is. And I can fill it in a certain way that no one else can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it sounds like also your ability to kind of see that creative spark in others or in
Mm.
items that you're changing to fit what you need it or want it to
Mm-hmm.
be is something that your clients really are drawn to, like
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
connection.
It's holding up that vision of what's possible for
Yeah.
them.
So who did that for you in your life?
I don't know, probably like everyone. There was like there was a lot of people that again, it goes back to my parents. Like, I would get reinforcement again, like that, the end result being something that connects or inspires. People are like, oh wow, that's really good, or how did you think of doing that, or that kind of thing. So the responses, the feedback from other people, just overall in general,
Yeah.
have been, have been things that poured into me. I had a drama teacher that was great, and just really able to kind of see that big vision when we did plays and things like that. So again, just allowing myself to explore and play has been huge.
Mm-hmm.
I have had teachers that kind of shut me down. So like it wasn't literally everyone, but it was definitely a lot of people in my life. Because again,
Yeah.
yeah, there were some times where it was like, frustrating, or
Mm-hmm.
something, something didn't go the way that someone else wanted it to go, even though it was my own choice or
Sure.
expression. And so, especially when I was younger, and especially as I work with teenagers, I think back a lot on my own teenage years, where I
Yeah.
had teachers who were like, yeah, why are you doing that? Or, I don't think you need to do something else.
Hmm.
And it's like, okay. And I listened because I was young and I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was interesting.
I mean, it makes me curious, like, what are some of the tips or tools that you use to help young adults navigate kind of being confronted with those people in their life who may not agree with the choices they're making or think that what they're doing isn't great?
Yeah. I I listen. That's my biggest tool. My biggest two tools, I guess, are my
Yeah.
ears. Um, and and pay attention because I've seen kids like seriously think that they have nothing to offer, that they have no
Mhm.
direction, no creativity, um no prospects, nothing
Yeah.
tangible or practical to offer.
Hmm.
And in conversation, what we can get to is no, they what they are naturally inclined toward and what they're already doing usually has some sort of larger implication
Mm-hmm.
or can make a bigger impact. There was a young man who, again, this very conversation, and it was like, as like I went through all the questions, like it took a little while to get there, but in the end it was like, oh, you play that game, cool, you're learning team building and communication and psychology and
Yeah.
you know problem solving and expressing yourself creatively with the storyline and things like that. So like there were all these actual things that he couldn't see.
Hmm.
But and I don't know who, if anyone, had made comments or dismissed it as like a waste of
Sure.
time or
Hmm.
something that's not practical or whatever. But the gift is to like open their eyes to, oh, this actually is something. Like, so seeing what's underneath the thing that they might actually just be doing because it's fun or because they're
Hmm.
interested in it or because you know they just they don't know why and they just are drawn to it, whatever it is, and then connecting the dots. And
Yeah.
it happens in conversation. And I also use some other tools like we'll do like values exercises and connect to core values. Well, I also am a certified passion test facilitator, so we go through the passion test process, which is based on a book by Janet Bray Atwood and Chris Atwood that takes this process of identifying and then prioritizing your top 5 passions in life
Mm.
and then applying them to your decision making and choices and things like that. So that really helps
Yeah.
um, connect to that clarity and direction and help with the decision making for the
Nice.
future.
I love it. I love those pieces of like listening and some very tangible pieces that
Yeah.
young adults can really get behind to explore and discover new things about themselves or
Hmm.
be reminded of, oh, that is actually all of these things that people are telling you you need. You're already doing it. So I can appreciate that. Now, you said you are an artist and were always an artist and drawing and making artwork. But I'm so curious, what's your earliest memory of being creative?
My earliest memory of being creative is I was drawing a picture on my aunt's living room floor and we went off to have lunch and the cat pooped on it. And I don't know how old I was. And I'm not sure that's like the earliest memory, but it's definitely one of the early significant ones. Because I was at my auntie's house and it was, the animals were not used to having the kiddos around because my cousins are much older than I am. So it was like they had to explain to me that the cat was kind of jealous of my aunt's attention, maybe, or something like that. But yeah, I don't remember what the drawing was, but
Yeah.
had been coloring on the floor and we came back and the cat had pooped on it.
Well, it sounds like it didn't stop you. That didn't stop you from creating
Right. The
art
cat was
or
my first, my first critic.
a pretty big critique.
Right. I don't know. It just, that's the first one that kind of stuck out in my mind. But yeah, my parents told me that I would, ask them to draw me like letters and things, like, because I wanted to write things really, really young, like at 2-3 years old. I wanted to write. So, but I don't really remember that.
Yeah. But yeah, that sounds like a pretty visual memory. The cat and the picture and the poop. Yeah, so when you kind of work with all of your clients and you're also a martial artist and you
Yes.
teach martial arts and
I teach karate, yes.
as well. I'm so curious, like you do so many different things in so many different arenas that I imagine, draw inspiration from a lot of different places. But who or what is inspiring you these days?
That's a good question. My family inspires me. I'm married to my husband. It'll be 18 years this summer, and we have a 15, 11, and 8-year-old sons. So they're amazing, and they have inspired me for years, because becoming a mom, becoming their parent has pushed me to level up. Because if I want certain things for them, if I want them to show up in a certain way, then they need an example. And so that was early on, I connected that dot and go, okay, well, who's it going to be? It's got to be me. I can't push them to do something that I'm not at least willing to do myself.
Right.
And that's not to say that I do all the same things that they do. It is to say that it's the reason I got into martial arts was, if I'm going to encourage them and inspire them to be their best out on the mats, then if I'm not willing to face my own fear and get out there too, because we were there anyway, so why not? Then how can I share from experience and be that example of pushing myself and inspiring others? So that's really taught me a lot. And then my instructors at the karate school have been inspiration for me. And also I've had my own coaches and just friends in I'm a part of a small business incubator called the Idea Collective. And that group of business owners is amazing. They are, some of them are just maybe a step or two ahead of me. Some of them are, just starting out. So a little bit, back down the road. And some of them are just like out there killing it with their, multiple 6-7 figure businesses. And it's like, I need to be in that room, because they're all just willing to collaborate and teach and mentor and pour into each other and help each other win. So those are some of my inspirations around right now.
Yeah, I love it. And also sounds like your willingness to learn is inspiring for you, of like continuing that learning, growing journey.
Yeah, there's always more. There's always another level to get to. You know it. It's like whether you're talking about an art, like an art skill or martial arts skill or whatever, physical or mental or emotional, whatever skills you're looking to build, there's always, I don't know that you ever like arrive. There's always going to be that next level. And the balance comes is like celebrating the journey and how far you've come, and like being proud of yourself and not necessarily satisfied with staying there forever. So
yeah, that's a good balance and a good reminder
and it's
too.
easier said than done, always.
100%. Like, isn't it always? Isn't it always?
Always,
For
always.
sure. Yeah. But that reminder of finding that balance of when we get to that celebration point of accomplishing something and still knowing that there's more to come, that this isn't the end. But I think oftentimes people get caught up in, oh, this is it. It's over. It's done. Now what do I do? And then there's that
And
letdown.
and I get caught up in the, like, I catch myself sometimes being cocky, like, oh, I know what's going on. And then something completely different or random happens. And I'm like, oh, I don't know anything.
The humbling moment.
Yeah. It checks me when I hear my kids say the words back to me that I've been trying to teach them. Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess I need to learn this lesson again too.
Those great reminders. Teachers come in all ages from every opportunity.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, because you work with young adults and teens, and I'm really curious, how do you encourage them to find creativity in their life?
That's a good question. And I think I would sort of go back to the kind of listening and looking for what they're already doing. A lot of times, even adults will say, oh, I'm not creative.
Yeah.
And you probably hear this too. Oh, I'm not creative. And that's just not true. We're all created to be creative. And there's something, even if it's how you organize a spreadsheet, like there's creativity there. Like you might not think of it that way, because a lot of times when people think of creativity, they think of art and music and some sort of like fine art type of expression. But there's creativity in cooking, and there's creativity in how you fold your laundry, and there, like there's all of these levels to it. So it does come back to the listening, is like, what are they getting passionate about? What are they excited to put out into the world? Like it could be the way they serve, or the way they teach, or the way they, I don't know, take out the garbage. Like, I don't know, like it could be anything. So yeah, it comes back to listening, and where's that. I track the body language. I track the tone of voice. I track what, those signals that tell me, oh, there's the fire. There it is.
Right. There's the spark.
Let's follow that road.
Nice.
So that's exciting.
Do they, like, once they find that spark, is it pretty easy for them to translate it into other things? Or do you find that it needs a little more massaging?
It depends on the person. It depends on what they've been through, what they believe about themselves, and how open they are to exploring a different way of seeing, a different perspective, a different belief about who they are and what they're capable of. So that answer, it just kind of depends. Like some people get it right away because they're like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. And then it's like, and not that it's done, but there's always another layer to it. I'm, generalizing, but some people get it right away, and then there's the next work to get onto. And sometimes you have to spend some time there and really reinforce and practice those skills, like the skills of changing the way you talk about yourself, or changing the way you show up in certain situations, depending on what's actually going on.
That's a great reminder, that shift in how you talk about yourself, or how you talk about things that you do.
Yeah.
Because it could be you narrating those dampening of your creative expression experience.
And so, yeah, sometimes it's your own voice repeating a voice or echoing a voice from your past. Sometimes it's just like, no, it's time to just say something different, and in a way that you can actually start to believe it. I'm big on words. I was an English major in college, so like I write poetry and do lots of writing and stuff. So it is, the words are huge.
Yeah,
words are so huge, and even if you just change one word regularly, My favorite is changing but to and.
Oh yeah.
Like that's a huge one because it changes the whole way you think about how to construct that sentence from there. So that's, so we'll do some wordplay or just how are you talking about yourself and how can you take ownership of your own choices by saying things like I instead of you when you're talking actually about yourself.
Right.
So
small things that have a big impact.
Right. And I'm all about simplifying. Life is very, very complicated. We've made it very, very complicated and way more complicated than it has to be. So I'm all about how can we simplify this and get to the real thing underneath. Nice. I love being a coach because people want to tell me like their whole life story. Like they want to tell me all the details and it's great, but it's like, I don't need that.
Yeah.
Like I can listen to like part of that story and you don't even have to share the whole thing. And I can tell you, okay, here's where we need to go.
Yeah. I love it. That's awesome. And I think kind of freeing and refreshing that people don't have to rehash everything.
I don't need all the details.
Yeah. I love it. Well, this has been such a treat to chat with you. I just have one last question. What does it feel like in your body to be creative?
Oh, I don't feel like I'm in my body when I'm creative. It feels expansive and light and I can find myself kind of getting lost. So yeah, it's transcendental. That's a good word.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, fantastic. Well, thank you for taking the time to chat with me. If people want to learn more about the things that you do, how they can find you, how could they go about doing that?
Yeah, I love to talk to people. It's my jam. You can find me mostly like the main place would be my website, saradeacon.com, SaraDeacon.com. No H on there. And I am all over the socials. So feel free to follow and like and share and all the things at Sara Deacon Coach on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, all the places.
Perfect.
YouTube.
Yeah. I love it. I'll put that in the show notes. People have easy access to click on links. And thank you again for taking the time. It has been a pure pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you so much, Mari. This was great.
Thanks for listening to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. We'd love to keep in touch, so follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We are at Sustaining Creativity. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Tag your friends and family so they can listen too. We love to hear from you, so leave your reviews, comments, and questions. Check out our website, sustainingcreativity.com, for upcoming offerings and creativity coaching. Tune in Tuesdays for our next episode. And remember, with creativity, anything's possible.